welcome to another episode of Lie, Cheat, and Steal, a podcast about liars, frauds, thieves, and bullshitters. I'm your host, Pat Soroyce. Just to let you guys know, we are a bi-monthly podcast. We're dropping 2 episodes a month wherever you listen to podcasts. And we also have 2 more episodes on our Patreon. So if you like what you hear, you can go to patreon.com/lie, cheat, and steal. And you can get 2 more episodes. Also access to our Discord chat. Fun place to be. Also, if you guys want to check us out online and check for clips and just kind of follow the show, we are on the social media platforms, YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok, and we are at Lie, Cheat, Steal Podcast. So go check us out, give us an interaction. Think of it like tipping the guy bringing your bags to your cars or whatever. You know, we're just we did something for you. You listen to us, throw us a little like. All right, let's call it even. That being said, I'm here as always with my co-host Kath Barbadoro. Kath, how you doing?
Hi, Pat. I'm doing okay. I feel like we always record on Tuesday nights, which is like, it's just like after 2 really long days of work for me, just because of how my schedule is. So I feel like our listeners are probably really tired of hearing me be like, I'm really tired right now. I'm so busy. Like that's so.
Guys,
I'm sorry, everyone.
I will attest.
I'm giving it my all for you.
There are
know?
5
We're
other
the podcast
days.
minds.
Yeah, there are 5 other days a week where Kath is just brimming with excitement.
Exactly. I'm bursting with energy the rest of the time. Long Tuesdays are rough for me, but I'm good. How are you, Pat?
I'm doing good. Kind of a rough Tuesday on my end. I almost called out of work today. I haven't called out of work in like 5 months. Like I show up and do construction work every day, and you can count on that. And this morning, man, my heart wasn't in it, dude. I just got up and I was like, I don't want to fucking go. Wasn't feeling it, but I was like, no, you're dumb. Rent's next month, or rent's always next month, but rent is due next week. And so I was like, get up and go. And then I pulled out of my subdivision onto the street that leads directly to my job, and it was way back traffic because of fucking work or because of road work being done. And I was going to be 20 minutes late to work, and I was like, I should have just fucking called out. So then I screenshotted it.
It was a sign.
Yeah, I screenshotted it, sent it to my foreman, and I was like, hey, look, I let them work at the same time every day. Just look where it's time when I get there. And he's like, well, if you make it to the lot that we pick you up in, we can you can call an Uber and drive onto the construction site. I was like, I will not be doing that. And then traffic just parted like the Red Sea, and I got there 1 minute late to catch the van, so they stuck around from where I got in, and I got to go to work for 8 hours, which ultimately is good. At the time,
what a reward.
Felt real bad. Yeah, I was not happy about it. And also I think the parking lot next to work is where my laptop got stolen. So it's right next to a high school.
So if you're on our Patreon, you may know this. I'm not sure if the word got out on the Patreon yet.
It did. I did a post. There was supportive comments. Thank you guys very much.
Yeah, Pat's laptop got stolen out of his car last week, which means usually we do video episodes on our Patreon, and the video was on that fucking stolen laptop.
Yeah.
So enjoy, please.
Yeah, right. I hope they're watching hot content. They can't do anything else with the thing. They can't connect it to the internet. So actually, they can't even get in. It's got a password. But the embarrassing part of me is that it was clearly done because I left my car unlocked. I'm normally pretty good about not doing that. But my theory is that we park in a church parking lot next to a high school to get in the shuttle to go on the job site.
Oh, yeah. People are trying those doors.
These damn kids. Yeah. And so I feel like they were walking by, just pop, pop, pop. And I was just the lucky day. And they got it. And I can see it on the Find My Items. It's in a neighborhood down the street. For sure, I pulled up to that neighborhood. But the little blue circle touches like 8 houses. And I was like, I can't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go knock on doors for this.
Yeah. Just be like Denzel and fucking Training Day, just out there like in the middle of the neighborhood, like King Kong ain't got nothing on me. No, I couldn't do that. So yeah, I just felt real dumb. And I was like, damn, they got me. And yeah, also the dumbest part though is that I didn't notice for 4 days. That's where I really felt stupid.
Yeah.
Because I had my backpack in my car in preparation to go do video editing. Saturday, I went for a jog, pulled up to a cafe, got my little went to go grab my backpack out, and I was like, huh, I guess I took it in the house. So I drove back to my house and I looked and I was like, it's not here. And so then I checked, and it was, man, I'm a victim. So don't steal from real people, guys. Just don't like steal from There's plenty of people out there
If
to
you're
steal
gonna
from.
steal, like, look, Pat, no offense to you. If you're gonna steal from like a nice car.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
not that your car's like a piece of shit, but
No,
like
it's
you're clearly just like
yeah.
a regular guy
It's a
who like
2012
needs his
Scion.
laptop.
Yeah, it's a 2012 Scion. I mean, it's not. Yeah, like, dude, there's nicer cars than the guys I work with. Fucking steal from them. Like those. Those dudes got real cool trucks. Yeah, no, but yeah, because they didn't even have to shatter a window. They literally just won the open door lottery, and that's probably because I was rushing back. Like I was pulling up, going to work. It was like, all right, let me get all my shit together, and just walked over to the van and didn't hit my little beat bop. So.
Well, yeah, now is the perfect time to sign up for our Patreon, get those 2 bonus episodes a month because Pat needs a new laptop, everyone.
Folks,
Gotta help
please.
him out.
Yeah. Disregard the quality of our content. Even if you don't like our shit, please. I need $5 from
Help
you.
him.
Yeah.
Well, speaking of victims, the person that this story is about has been described as a professional victim by some of his detractors.
Okay.
But also maybe is a legitimate victim. So I want to like sort of preface this story that like there is some definite scammy shit going on here, like objectively, but there's also some like dubious, maybe it's true, maybe it isn't, and it's about abuse.
Okay.
So trigger warning, we are going to be talking about child abuse in this story. Not currently, it's about an adult person who may or may not have been abused as a child. But it's sort of I find this really interesting because it's very unclear. So
yeah.
Today we are talking about this guy Dave Pelzer, which is hard for me to say because there is a very prominent wrestling critic named Dave Meltzer. And so I keep wanting to say that.
Yeah.
But no, his name is Dave Pelzer, and he wrote a little book called A Child Called It. Pat, have you read this book? Do you know about this book?
I had not read about it. I know about it. I didn't know that there was any sort of scammy nature to it. I feel like I kind of may have heard that somewhere along the line with the social discussion of that book. Like I'm culturally aware of it, but I know it exists. Also, I know if you're trying to allege abuse, I could have gone for a more shock value title, like a child called Stupid Farthead or something like it. In the grand scheme of things, ain't that bad. Like like I feel like I've been called worse than it. But then again, there's the idea of being called it by your parents and not like a person by them. Yes, I get that, but they could
see like this book came out in like the mid '90s. And yeah, like the idea is a child called it. It's because his mother, who is the primary abuser in the story, referred to him as it.
You know what I've never been? A child called late for dinner, baby. Never called me that. Can't you? Those allegations don't stick. I've always been on time for dinner.
My thing with this book was it's like really harrowing. It's like really dark.
Yeah.
Right. And it came out in the '90s when I was like a little kid. Like this came out in '95, I would have been 8.
Yeah.
And it's about like an 8-year-old or somebody around that age. And it was something that kids that age like were sometimes reading, even though it was like really intense, because it was sort of a like, you need to know that this happens in the world type of thing. I guess.
Some parent was like,
I don't really know.
Get off my case. Look what you could be going through.
I think so. Like because I was reading through like the Reddit about this, and like a lot of people were like, my parents made me read this when I was really young, and it like really fucked me up. Like it's really awful to read. But my thing is, so I knew about this book and I knew it was like kind of scary because it was something that was like, ooh, like that's really. But then there's another book that young adults often read that is very scary called It by Stephen King. And so I was like, is A Child Called It about a clown? Like what? I couldn't like figure out. I just constantly conflated them through my whole childhood. But no, they're, despite both being about childhood trauma, they are, are quite
oddly
different.
enough. Yeah. Well, and what we found from like fictional accounts of like like cinematically harrowing life. We had the JT Leroy.
That's a good way to put it.
Yeah. We've had the other things. Those tend to be not true, like or be falsified to some degree. We see that a lot, and especially just in our episodes. Is that if there's a book that's like particularly like, and then after they put the cigarette out of my face, they shot me out of a cannon or some shit. Like when we see stuff like that, it does tend to be overblown a bit.
Right. Like there's a lot of incentive to make it sort of like ostentatiously
Yeah.
horrible in this very, like you said, this cinematic way. And that's like one thing that is so interesting about this to me is like this guy. So, first of all, most of what I'm reading from is this New York Times article that came out in 2002. It was, as far as I know, the only like interview, like profile Dave Pelzer ever did. And because it ended up being so critical, he has like never really done any press since then.
Oh, wow.
Um, and it's called Dysfunction for Dollars, which gives you a good sense
Yeah.
of what this author's take is on this guy. um but at the same time, like, so there's like not a lot of evidence of this abuse, but A, there is some, and B, a lot of family dynamics with child abuse and stuff are really complicated. So the fact that people are not corroborating this
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily mean it didn't happen. And then the other thing is like this paints a really unflattering picture of Dave Pelzer as a guy, but being abused as a child can make you like kind of a piece of work.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah.
it doesn't necessarily make you like a cool person to be
Yep.
around.
Yep.
Like,
Well, that's like I've noticed
so
that about
yeah.
people that like my dumbass hit the leg. Okay, I put myself down. Anyways, I'll put mark an edit point on that. Sorry. What I noticed about that, I don't have a problem with people who like are well-to-do or had like very like like painless upbringings, but I've noticed that a lot of times you may not want to like those people, but they tend to be well-adjusted, nice, friendly people because they were raised, as unfair as it may be. Like it's like no, those tend to be really nice people. Like they like because they grew up in a nice environment and were raised correctly around people that care for them. It can, yeah,
Right, like they have a sense of stability to
yeah,
them that makes I mean, it makes their lives easier. And I
yeah,
think also like something like, I don't know, I think about this because I was pretty lucky. My parents like have a good relationship. My upbringing was like nothing chaotic about it or whatever. And sometimes when like people are acting in a way where I'm like, why are you acting like that? Like how, like, you're being a shitty person, or
yeah,
like you're being immature, you're being whatever. It's like, well, yeah, not everybody got the fucking luxury to like figure shit out when they were a kid because they had space to do that.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
the more sort of complicated and chaotic and stressful your early years are, it's like you have to figure out how to be an adult a lot later because
yeah.
you were so preoccupied with all of those, just trying to kind of keep your head above water. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
I guess it would be a good move to write a novel that we're just like, guys, look, before you go off me about my grass being too high and I'm always yelling at people and shit, look at this, read this. I was a child called
Right.
it. All right.
Right.
It's kind of an
Real fucked
understandable
up.
move. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like it's good to give people on both sides of that some grace. Everybody is for the most part doing their best.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Yeah. We're all trying,
even when
man.
we're all doing, we're working with what we've been given. But yeah, no, I think you're right about that. But yeah, so it's like I feel like some of the stuff that this author Pat Jordan, who wrote this profile of him, some of the stuff he points out in a way to be like, yeah, right, this guy wasn't abused.
Yeah.
Part of me is like, I don't think that's necessarily evidence that he would like he
Yeah.
just, we'll get into it, but like he just speaks in kind of a flippant way sometimes, and like it's just like I don't think that means he's lying. I think that might just mean he's like fucked up,
Yeah.
which like is actually evidence in support of some of this stuff happening.
Yeah.
So
You said his article was written in 2002. I feel like in 2002 there was a less thoughtful way of handling like a
yes.
takedown like this, where they're just like it's either all one thing, either he's a complete liar or he's he's an actually abused child, and it's like not that there's like a middle ground somewhere.
Right. And I do, so like personally, I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, but I did want to establish that because like our podcast is about scammers. We're gonna get into some of the scammy stuff he's done. He's done some scammy stuff, but I'm not, I don't think we're gonna make a definitive statement about how much of, if any, if all of the child abuse stuff is made up.
Yeah.
Um, but it's that to me is like really interesting too. It's like I don't know. I find this guy really fascinating. So Dave Pelzer, this guy, he was born in San Francisco, California in late 1960. He was the second of a family of 5 boys. And he writes this book in the mid 90s called A Child Called It. It is still, he's written several books, which we'll get into. but A Child Called it remains his most popular book. That is the only one I had heard of.
Yeah.
And it's published by this small self-help publisher called Health Communications Inc. And it started really small. He got like no advance or anything. It was just like they agreed to publish this book. And it started to grow when he started to get press. So the guy who runs Health Communications Inc., herefore known as HCI, says that Dave got on Montel Williams' show.
Hey.
And then after that, it was like, sales were through the roof.
Got the Montel bump, dude.
Exactly. This is 95.
Yeah.
Getting a Montel
up
bump.
and down 95. Yeah.
But Dave has beef with Health Communications Inc. He claims that he only received net royalties of 3 to 7%. HCI showed this guy a contract and said he was getting 15 to 20% of the net sale of each book. They had like a very bitter falling out, and the guy who runs HCI is the one who says like, this guy is a professional victim. He always feels like he's being wronged. Like he's a victim of our predatory press or whatever. And like after the book got really big, he moved to a bigger publisher and was like, fuck these guys. So more about A Child Called It. It is told through the eyes of Pelzer as a child, so in present tense. As of the writing of this article in 2002, it had spent 215 weeks on the New York Times bestseller list. And it details the abuse he suffered at the hands of his mother, who does such things as, trigger warning, burns his arm on the stove, smears a feces-stained diaper in his face, makes him vomit and then eat it, stabs him in the stomach, starves him for 10 days, makes him drink ammonia, and separates him from his 4 brothers who never witnessed the abuse. So apparently this is all happening in secret. This dude got stabbed in the stomach in secret.
Stabbed in the stomach, like, isn't even like, I mean, it's abuse, clearly, but it's also just like, that's like like you like put a cigarette on somebody's neck when you hate him or whatever, but you're stabbing somebody in the stomach. That's attempted murder.
Stabbing in the stomach is like crazy work. It definitely goes a little beyond like classic abuse. I guess you could call like getting in a knife fight abuse. It's not abuse. It's just like, damn, that's like kind of a separate thing.
It's like there's like
it is abusive to like shoot someone. That isn't the word that comes to mind.
That's not what comes to it's like my partner gets goes out, has a few drinks, comes home, stabs me in the stomach. It's like, what, this happens like all the time. This is multiple felonies, like that's insane.
So about this book, so all of his, he writes like 3 main ones during this time period. He has since written a bunch of other books, but the 3 big ones at this time, they all get on the New York Times bestseller list. And Pelzer really comes across in this profile as somebody who is like very into the New York Times bestseller list. His books have been on there for a combined total of 448 weeks, which is unprecedented for a single author at this time for the bestseller list. And the thing to note about that, which we will discuss later, is that the books, all of the listings have like a dagger next to them in the chart, because the majority of these sales that these books are generating are through bulk sales, which we'll talk about later. But it's basically a single order with lots and lots of copies going to one person. Yeah,
that's we've discussed again with over the top biographies about how that comes into play. Like that's, or you just
like that YA author. Right?
The young adult author. Just you can. The New York Times bestseller list, I feel like it ain't what it used to be.
Yeah. Exactly. But yeah, so the thing that like unites all of his books is that like only the first one is explicitly about the abuse, but all of the other ones also are like him remembering more and more over the top abuse. And like, even though they're not supposed to be about that time period, he's clearly realized that the appeal of his books is sort of that they're like horror porn. Like they're like when he gets stabbed in the stomach, that incident is described over 13 pages in the book. Like he
Wow.
really is like,
Yeah.
he's really digging into like the gore. Like
Yeah.
there's, I don't want to read the description because it's so like garish and over the top, but it's like a very detailed description of somebody like bleeding out. There's like pus. There's like, it's gnarly.
Yeah.
It's gnarly.
I can only imagine, like, you know, to the untrained, to the layman, such as myself, when it comes to stabbing people in the stomach, I think stab in the stomach, you think blood's coming out. I bet some surprising other stuff comes out. Stuff I couldn't even probably think of. You know what I'm saying? I bet some weird shit comes out of there, I would imagine.
Oh, he's describing the colors of the stuff coming out. It's a whole thing.
Yeah, good thing I had all that time to observe because you didn't go in for a second swipe.
Also, like, I don't know, I mean, I guess you just have to with like a narrative flourish, but it's like, I don't think you have 13 pages of memories about this because you probably blocked it out to some extent.
Yeah.
Because just like your body goes into shock, like you're in pain, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I think his follow-up to A Child Called It, like, I think it would have showed real personal growth if the second book was called A Man Called Dave. Just,
yeah, that would be so nice.
Yeah, put a pin in it. Yeah, put a pin in it and start writing true crime novels, you know, or whatever. It's just like, I don't know. This is like, that feels like that should have been the arc.
Yeah, that would be sweet. He does he's like a self-help guy. So like, he does end up writing more uplifting stuff about how he managed to sort of pull himself out of this environment. And one thing that does corroborate at least that he had a rough childhood, if not this rough, is that he was placed in foster care for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
So like, there is evidence of that, which is why I'm like loath to be like, he made all of this up.
Yeah.
But I feel like it's fairly safe to say he made some of it up.
Yeah.
At least.
And that's all you got to do to get on the show. You know what I'm saying? Like, just do a little fabrication and you're in. We got you.
Oh, don't worry. There's plenty more objective fabrication coming.
It sounds like he's gonna get into some shit like later in his life after that book. But it's like one of those things where you have that springboard into legitimacy, and then it's just like, oh, it turns out you're also just a deeply flawed person.
Well, and I wonder too, like, because we also did an episode on Go Ask Alice, which was like the like sort of scared straight drug book, and I feel like this has a similar vibe where it's like, it's for people who want to read really dark shit, but don't want to admit to themselves that they want to read really dark shit. And so they're like, I need to read this like cautionary tale by a moral person who's like, I have to endure all these horrible explanations of stuff because it's going to make me a better person to know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? As opposed to just reading like a horror novel. Or something,
that's like with like,
because like, okay.
It's like with simple people, like I don't say simple people, but like the less bright people that you know, and they're like, it's a movie is where like there's a movie where like a dog dies and a guy gets cancer, and like it is so good, and it's like it's not good just because a bunch of bad shit happened. Like
it made you feel things. But that doesn't mean it's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I think people are like often drawn toward kind of dark, fucked up shit.
Yeah.
And there's a certain group of people. I think it's often sort of like religious people and stuff like that. But I think it's also maybe a personality type who don't really want to confront that in themselves. That they are sort of drawn to stuff that's like kind of dark. And so it needs to be couched in this, covered in this, like, no, I'm reading a self-help book.
Yeah.
Like, no, I'm reading about
sense.
the dangers of drugs.
Yeah.
Like,
but
really, when you read it, it's 13 pages of a description of a child being stabbed.
That
is what you're reading. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're like, wait, you have those 3 pages earmarked, dog. Like, what's that about?
Yeah.
Dude, I stopped. I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts, but there's one started putting trigger warnings about what the content was about in their episode description. Mm-hmm. And I found myself listening to it way less. Because like it used to just be like, all right, let's see what this one's about. And I'll go through, I'm like, child victim. I'm like, I don't want to fucking listen to that.
I'm not in the mood.
Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I'm glad they're doing it for whoever else, but it literally took me out of the rotation on them.
That's funny.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a weird effect.
So again, just to talk a little bit about his other books. His follow-up to A Child Called It was The Lost Boy, which talked about his experience in foster homes. And again, like his experience in foster homes was not that bad. So like the appeal of his first book is not really there.
Yeah.
Because he's no longer suffering abuse. And that's kind of the thing that made his work like interesting to people.
He's
So
facing a
he
bigger
makes sure to
monster,
put in
disinterest. It's like
exactly.
yeah, the people didn't even care that I was there, actually.
So, of course, in this one, he talks about the stuff that he has recently remembered about the abuse, which is that his mom made him eat dog poop. That's the new one. So he was like, "Oh yeah, by the way, also this."
that seems like
And then in promoting the book, he says, "No, it was dog poop with worms in it."
Yeah.
And then
don't go just thinking it was just straight dog poop. All right, like my mom wasn't more cruel and devious than that. No, she found a dog with worms, brought it to the crib, made it poop.
He also then says his mom didn't stab him in the stomach, she stabbed him in the heart, which is like, I feel like, I know you said your brothers didn't know, but I feel like they would know. I feel like they would know.
I kind of wish just once she'd stabbed them in the stomach, you know what I'm saying? like, it would have been nice if she would have stabbed one of them too, is what I'm saying.
Finally, give me, make it fair at least. Make it fair.
Give me a friggin' night off. Come on, man.
So this is after The Lost Boy. He splits with his publisher and basically is just like, I made you guys, like, how dare you, not give me a bigger cut. So he leaves there and he takes a lucrative publishing deal with a bigger publisher. And then he publishes his third book, which is called, say it with me, Pat, A Man Named Dave.
A Man Named Dave, what? Oh, hell yeah. All right. You know what? Yeah. I am as creative as him with none of the trauma, and I think that's a good deal, you know? Okay, that is good. I'm glad he did that. A child called it The Lost Boy, A Man Named Dave. That's the redemptive struggle, the redemptive tale. I like it. Good on him. Yeah, he knew what he was doing, or at least it's like his copywriter did or whatever.
Yeah, it really, he knocked it out of the park with that one. And of course he did, because it spent, as of 2002, it had spent 73 weeks on the bestseller list.
Wow.
So everybody wanted to hear about The Man Named Dave.
Yeah, that's a lot of like seminal works of fiction. It's been like a long ass time. Or I guess you'll still look at certain like songs from like 9
sort of
years
like
ago.
The Eagles' greatest hits.
Yeah.
You know?
Is that like how Chicago has sold more albums than I think it's like they outsold Beyonce or something, or they outsold Michael Jackson? And it was like because Chicago has like all these greatest hits albums that just constantly keep getting bought. Whatever, man. That's how you do. How you ride the charts.
So, in A Man Named Dave, Pelzer talks about his experience as an adult. He joins the Air Force, and he starts his career as like a speaker, talking, advocating for victims of child abuse, giving talks about his book. He gets married, he has a kid, he gets divorced, and then he remarries his editor, his old editor from his old publisher that he left.
The Health Communications?
Yes.
Oh, but she's popular around the office.
Who edited. Yeah, exactly. He married the woman who edited the books. But again, he talks about his abuse some more. He also like the thing, like, okay, so a lot of his like more recent books, he wrote one called Help Yourself. And also a little bit in A Man Named Dave.
Help Yourself reminds me like he also did like a diet help book. Like also I did a diet cooking book. Help Yourself. It's just one of his little pan of food. Have some food.
Yeah, here are some recipes for dog poop with worms in it. Help Yourself.
Yeah, I don't want that guy touching the food. Ooh, is he tasting the sauce? Gross, dog.
So he like in his like recent books about his adult life, he like writes like really mean shit about his ex-wife. It's like so crazy. Like, which is when you're sort of like, okay, man, whatever.
Yeah.
But here's a little selection for you. So he talks about his ex-wife, who in his books he calls Patsy. He does give her a pseudonym. He says she constantly belittles his writing. And when he says he's thinking of calling his book A Child Called It, she says, "That's a depressing title. It's about you, isn't it?" And he responds, "Let's just say it's a story about a kid who never quit." It's like, I guess that's one way to say it.
Yeah. Let's just say, yeah, man. I don't know if this is biased because like I grew up with a lot of women in my house. But whenever I hear a dude bitching about his wife, like I'll agree and be like, yeah, that sounds crazy. In the back of my head, I'm always like, there's something else going on, dude. Like, I don't know if it's like, I don't know, that's like internal. What's the one you hate, man? Misandry.
Misandry,
Yeah, I was like,
internalized misandry.
internalized misandry. But every time I hear, yeah, dude being like, this, you fucking did this. And I'm not saying they're not making valid points, but I'm always like, yeah, there's some shit I ain't hearing about though.
Right. There is another side to this
Yeah,
story.
there's some shit you probably don't even realize you're doing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. That's the thing is like, I feel like in a lot of those situations with men who are in relationships with women, it's like, you don't even know what you're leaving out. It's not even like you're trying to be manipulative. It's like
you're too stupid to notice
when
what
a
you've
guy
been doing.
says, when a guy says like, "Oh my God, she just broke up with me out of the blue."
Yeah,
It was never out of the blue.
Yeah.
There were signs. There were signs.
Yeah, I was dating a girl one time that was like, we met her friend and her boyfriend, and I got along really well with the boyfriend, and I was like, hey, I got rules, man, and she was like, yeah, but she's breaking up with him. And she was like, no, she's breaking up with him on Friday. I was like, how do you know which day of the week of next week she's breaking up? How do you know that?
It's in the Google Calendar.
Yeah. The girl group Google Calendar. So it's just when the next like Vegas trip is and who's breaking up with who when.
But yeah, so this guy, he's just like constantly like shitting on his ex-wife, who he says that she didn't believe him. She called him a liar.
Did you write a lady called bitch? It's like
follow up. Follow up. Yeah, so his most recent one, as of the writing of this, he has written more. I have info about that, which we'll get to at the end. Help Yourself was his most recent one, but he's still writing them. It's pretty boilerplate, like self-help stuff.
Yeah.
Like, literally a direct quote from it is, "Life isn't fair." It's like, yep, didn't need your book, but thank you. Correct.
He's just on the cover. Yeah, he's just on the cover, like doing that little arms across the face, or arms across the chest.
And so like this is the thing, is like, the only thing that really sets his work apart is his descriptions of this horrific abuse. So, like, I think maybe what happened, if some element of this is real, I feel like he was like, well, clearly this is like my hook.
Yeah.
So like, I have to keep drawing these really elaborate scenarios because like otherwise people are not interested. Which is a really fucked up message to internalize about yourself.
Maybe you shouldn't be cranking out these self-help books just yet. Now it sounds like you still got some knots to untie down there.
Right. So like, he's partially the scammer, but also the grifter, emotional vampire people here are the reading public. That is also the people being exploitative here. But so back to the New York Times seller list. So Pelzer does tons and tons and tons of speaking engagements. Like, that is kind of his bread and butter for how he makes his money. He gives these talks. In 2002, he was on the road 270 days a year. So he's like a road comic.
That dude's fucking hitting clubs.
Yeah. And so at these events, he will sell his book. He will bulk buy the books to sell them at the thing.
Oh, shit.
Which is not the normal way that is done. The normal way that is done is that he gets the books from the publisher. And there's no commercial interaction. You know? But instead, to juice his numbers, he will buy them from these stores.
Puts it on a card, gets points. You know what I'm saying? Like, we know we're on to you, Dave. We know what you're doing.
So, the author of this article says, it's not clear whether these sales alone keep his books on the bestseller list. The big book selling chains like Barnes & Noble and Amazon refuse to release specific sales numbers. So if they sell 10,000 copies of A Child Called It in a week, there's no way to know whether that was made up of bulk sales or combined individual sales. But they would all be tallied. So, and one thing that they point to that like he's the one keeping his stuff there is at the end of 2001, they all fell off the list at the same time. And then a month later, they all got back on the list.
Yeah, he's waiting on some checks to clear.
Like, oh, he took some time off for the holidays.
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
He had Christmas. You know?
If anything happened to affect my negative performance in any capacity at the end of 2001, I'd just be like, fucking 9/11, dude. I was mourning, bro.
Right. Yeah. What are you gonna do? People are too concerned about terrorism to read all these abuse memoirs.
Yeah.
It's a dark enough time already.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah.
But the publisher of A Child Called It and The Lost Boy, again, being sort of like the two most popular ones, HEI says we've only ever sold him like 1,000 copies. So he would not have enough for these book signings and speaking engagements if he were not buying them from other places. So according to Pelzer, his speaking engagements range from 300 to 3,000 people. He speaks 2 to 3 times a day. According to his wife / manager / editor, they sell books to 25% of the crowd, which would mean he was selling 40,000 to 400,000 of his own books.
Wow.
He also says he gives thousands of them away to kids, which again, don't think kids should be reading this, dude. I mean, number one, you're lying. Like, no, you don't.
Yeah.
But also, don't do that. Yeah. It's not for kids.
Yeah, imagine if you're like a principal at inner city school and Dave Pelzer just pulls up with or Dave Pelzer just pulls up with yeah, exactly. He has like a truck full of books about him eating poop, and you're just like, oh damn, you ain't got like computers or anything. He's like, nah, just books where I eat poop.
You hook me up with an Animorphs at least.
Yeah, man, shout out Animorphs, dude. A couple people in the Discord have sounded off about whenever I mentioned Animorphs, and go off, Kings. Wonderful.
AJ Applegate, knew what was up. Those books are great. But yeah, so if he is selling close to as much as he says he is, then he's the one keeping this on the bestseller list. He also is like it seems like he's sort of a pathological like self-inflator of his own accolades.
Yeah.
He told, again, he's telling a journalist this. He tells the journalist who's interviewing him that his book is being taught at Harvard and that it was a Pulitzer Prize nominee. Neither one of those things are true. There's no record of the book being taught at Harvard. He submitted it for the Pulitzer, but that's not the same as being a nominee.
Yeah.
It just means you paid a $50 fee and filled out a form and sent them your book. That's all that means.
Man, like I feel like going through like entertainment and comedy the way we have and have done, like you see those accolades that look really good, but you know the other side. Like when somebody posts that they're like, I'm in the Kenan Thompson comedy contest, and you're just like,
right.
And you're like, oh, cool, man. Like it's like we all know we know what that means, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, this guy, like, according to the New York Times author who shadowed him, he clearly just like thrives from the attention that he gets from his audience. They compare him a lot to like a traveling salesman or like a traveling like mega church pastor type guy.
It sounds very similar.
He really thrives in this environment with all of these people who've come to see him, which I think the New York Times author finds like kind of insincere.
Yeah.
But also like if you were deprived of affection when you're young, it produces somebody who's like that.
Yeah,
look at every comedian.
Look at every Kenan Thompson comedy contest entry.
Right.
No, I got homies that have been in that shit. I can't. Fucking. But yeah, no, that's what produces. Yeah, entertainers. That's how you get the art you want. All right, don't hate the process.
Yeah, and I feel like he has like some real entertainer DNA in him. So he says to the journalist, did you know John Grisham sold his first book out of his truck? It's honorable. I learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger too. He loves Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I can see that.
I learned from Arnold Schwarzenegger too that it's okay to be pluggish. It's about Arnold's DNA. My DNA is Dave. There's a lot of Dave mania when I speak. So he's always talking about how his fans are there for the DNA of Dave. That's like his big quote. That he's like, they're there, and he's like over and over again being like, they're there for me. They're there for me and who I am. It's like very self-aggrandizing in a way.
Yeah. Man.
So yeah, he just has like a lot of this kind of snake oil salesman vibe about him.
Yeah, I just looked up what my boy looks like, and I could see him saying that sentence like they're here for me. Like that's
Yeah.
yeah, that's yeah. I mean, fuck it, good
And
for him.
I wonder too, because like they point out that like his most of the people who come to see him are women, and like if your mom was fucked up to you and a bunch of women come and tell you that you're great, like
Yeah,
yeah, I can see that being like, I gotta keep making
yeah,
this
yeah.
happen. Like, this is really important.
That's very true. Yeah,
But yeah, apparently he makes like bank off of these. Like
I bet.
every speaking engagement he does, he makes just the fee to do the event is like thousands of dollars.
Yeah.
He won't
He
be
said
too
he does 3
specific
a
about
day
it.
too. That's crazy. I forget about that. Like because like again with comedy shows are at night. You can do 2 shows in a night. I mean, hell, I've done 3 or 4 all over town or whatever. But you can have like two shows or maybe 3. But yeah, when you're doing 3 a day, like that's triple the fee. You're not giving the venue a group discount. You're saying, hey, you want me this many times? You sell this many tickets. This. That's
Right.
dope. I mean, yeah, that's money.
Yeah. And so again, like when at this talk, he's introduced as a survivor of a horrendous childhood, a Pulitzer Prize nominee whose books have been on the New York Times bestseller list for 8 years. And his talks are like really weird. So
Yeah.
he, according to this journalist who followed him around, he gets up there and he says to this audience of women, if you're all here, who the hell's taking care of the children? And then he does impersonations through his talk of Bill Clinton, Jethro from the Beverly Hillbillies, Dr. Evil, and of course, Arnold Schwarzenegger. And then he calls himself, quote, the Robin Williams of child abuse. So like a colorful character to say the least.
That oh man, that fucking broke me, dog. The Robin Williams of childhood. Who even thinks of that? That's insane. Ooh, hey, ooh, my mom hit me. Oh, yeah, he was on a cigarette. Ooh, oh, yeah, my guts, my guts, my guts. Ooh, I'm smoking now. I'm French. You know, like, it just
right. It's fucking crazy, but also it's like, yeah, I can see somebody with a rough childhood ending up that way.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah. Again, you're telling me about all
crazy.
Yeah, he's doing all these impressions. This dude is a fucking a comic. He's like one of those like real successful road guys that's not a household name, or maybe like, you know what I'm saying? You meet these dudes and like they're like, but you meet them and they're very sold themselves. Like they're like, you know, they're the regional club guy. They're all over the regional clubs. They might do cruise ships, and they're
like, I will do literally anything to make you laugh.
Yeah. No scruples
I have no
whatsoever.
interior sense of what's funny that I feel loyal to. I have no like creative aspirations. I am here because I want to make people laugh.
Yeah.
They need to laugh at me.
Yeah,
like,
dude.
Yeah.
Like there was a guy. I can't remember his name now, but he has passed away. But I still would have said it. Don't get me wrong if I couldn't remember it. But he was an older dude, and he gave me shit. He was the first guy to give me shit for shorts on stage. And he told me you come here dressed, you came in off the street or whatever. But his fucking one of his jokes. This was like in 2010. He was like, yeah, I met this chick. I took her back to MySpace. She sat on my Facebook. I made her Twitter. And I was just like, yeah. And he was working the clubs all over New England, dude. He's like, go to hell.
Yep. It's a real type.
Yeah. That's this guy.
But yeah, so like the books, like if you read the books, apparently a lot of people were like, I don't think this is true.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think all of this is true. Just because of the way they're written, a lot of people were sort of skeptical. So he, quote, Pelzer has an exquisite recall of the abuse, but almost no recall of anything that would authenticate that abuse. He can't explain his mother's psychological motivation for abusing him, but not abusing any of his 4 brothers, other than to say that she had not dealt with her unresolved issues. Of the 6 people who might have witnessed his abuse firsthand, Pelzer gives pseudonyms to the 4 who are still alive. So this, like, again, like it is not completely unheard of for one child to be scapegoated and abused in an abusive family.
Yeah.
And for everyone else in the family to gang up on that kid, even the other kids, because they know if they do that, they won't get abused.
Yeah.
You know? So it's not totally outside the realm of possibility, but it is like, it's a little weird.
Yeah. Is his mom still alive or in the picture or? Yeah,
She is not still alive.
Okay, yeah. In the picture was a dumb question too. Like, so do they talk?
The only people that are alive are his 4 brothers.
Okay.
And this journalist who wrote this article went and spoke with them. And they all deny it, but also like one of them is like really mean about it. And
Yeah.
so like I am like, maybe they were ganging up on this guy. Like, I don't know. So
it's like, man, somebody should feed that guy dog poop or something. Like,
well, here's the thing. So his brother Steven basically just says like Dave was always like a total drama queen and really spoiled. And he says the reason he went to foster care was because he was like so rebellious and out of control.
Yeah.
And it wasn't that he was getting abused, which to me sounds like what you would say if you were abusing a kid.
Yeah, yeah. Because like, you can't like, can you opt in to foster care as like a kid? Can you like pick me up? Like, well, I'm not loving it here.
It was like my parents said they couldn't control him anymore,
yeah.
which is like what you would say if you were beating the shit out of your kid in CPS games.
Yeah. So his dad was there.
Oh, I'm doing it for a reason.
Yeah, you know yeah. You guys don't know this kid. He's a menace. So the dad was around?
I believe the dad was around, yes.
Yeah.
But did not participate as directly. But like, so the brother says like he never got stabbed in the stomach. One time the mom was preparing dinner and he got like his arm slashed a little bit from like just like, you know, running through the kitchen being a kid.
Yeah.
And he says there wasn't even any blood and yet he screamed, "Mommy stabbed me." So
these do sound like excuses. You're right. Like I don't like these don't sound 100% genuine either. Like it feels like they're like yeah.
But he does say like David was not ostracized from the family. We were actually really close when we were kids. So it's weird that he would say all of this. His grandmother also says like he was just kind of a disruptive kid, but she doesn't remember any of the abuse. She says that he is like prone to grandiosity. Like when he got married, he told the family that there would be all these celebrities at the wedding, and it was like, no, it was just his family in the garage, like normal.
Was he famous yet when he said that?
Yeah, it was his second wedding. He said,
okay, yeah. But I mean, it'd be funny if he was like just hadn't even written the first book yet. And he's like, fucking Ving Rhames is gonna be there.
But yeah, so like this all is like dubious, but it is like a vehement refutation of this stuff happening. But you're like, I don't know, like it could definitely still be true, and these people could just still be sort of affected by this like tough childhood they all had. But then, so the guy Steven, the brother, who's saying like none of this ever happened, this guy's just always been kind of a liar. Steven has Bell's palsy, which is a facial paralysis that affects how you speak.
Yeah. JR from wrestling has that. Jim Ross.
Yeah. Yes. So Pelzer's brother Steven has that, the guy who gave this interview. And when Pelzer's confronted about it, where he's like, you know, your brother says none of this ever happened. He says Steven is semi R-worded. So
I was thinking that's
so like I'm not on team anyone here. Like
you can trust that guy. Oh man.
And the author of the article's like, I spoke with him for a very long time. I have no like that was not my impression of him at all. Yeah. He just has a facial paralysis which affects his speech. Like he's not so I don't know what's going on, but what I can establish is that these two brothers do not like each other.
Yeah.
That's pretty much all that can be established.
Yeah, that's like already a thing a brother calls one brother. Just do it in this context.
Yeah.
He's gay too. He doesn't believe me, but he is.
So, this book still has this sort of cult around it of people who like think it's really powerful.
Yeah.
But then there are also people who are like, even if it is true, it's like a really, because of how it's written in this really exploitative, like lurid way.
Yeah.
It's not like it doesn't help anybody who's been victimized. It doesn't help anyone who knows anyone who's victimized. It's just this really gruesome account of abuse.
Yeah.
So like it's a lot of social workers and stuff now are like, don't read this book. Like don't give it to people.
I was like,
but he has like
I listened to a 3-part podcast with a Golden State Killer before they caught him. And I remember I was just like, okay, they better catch this guy. And it was just a detailed description of everything he did, which is horrendous. And like, I got to the end of the 3rd episode, they were like, still don't know who the guy is. And I was so mad. I was like, I can't believe I sat through fucking 3 hours of just a recitation of this dude's insane crimes. Thank you.
So the New York Times article ends with like another talk he's at, where he begins the talk by saying, kids read my books and clean up their room because they're afraid Miss Pelzer is coming to babysit them. Like,
even if it is true, he doesn't get it. You know what I'm saying? Like, he hasn't taken the right lessons from it. Like, yeah, what a fractured individual that guy is.
That's the thing. I think that's why this is like so interesting to me, because it's like, yes, he qualifies for the podcast because he is doing some shady shit and he does lie. But he's also just like a fascinating weirdo.
Yeah.
He's such a weird guy.
Miss Pelzer's coming to get you kids. And they're like, yeah, they all run off.
Dude, that's your mom who abused you. Like, what are you talking about? Crazy.
I eat poop with worms in it, man. I'm a little off, dude. Like, that is part of what makes me me. Okay?
Robin Williams of child abuse.
Yeah. He just slips into his Dr. Evil impression.
He also says, quote, I'm not here to plug my book, but I've been on the New York Times bestseller list for 200 weeks.
I'm not here to plug my book. Which book? Well, the one that's on the New York Times bestseller list for 12 weeks.
So, like, yeah, it's just, this article is really interesting. This guy is really interesting because it's like, clearly the dude who wrote this, Pat Jordan, does not trust this guy further than he can throw him. He doesn't like him.
Yeah.
He thinks this is all total bullshit. But also, like, I think the article is kind of mean-spirited and not like completely fair.
Yeah.
But it's like sort of the last in-depth thing we have about this guy, because he refused to do any other media after this.
Yeah.
Because he's still like trying to make coin, you know?
Yeah.
He doesn't want anything that's going to affect his sales.
That's again like straight up like these career non-household name entertainers where there's like I one of a comic I one of a comic that does Blue, go bad me. If you're going on, you can't talk about this, you can't talk about this. I have those jokes, shit like that, where they really control the way that they get to be perceived by an audience and just the public at large. And that's probably how he keeps the bills paying. You know, that's why people keep going to see him, is because he has cultivated the way he's perceived in the public, and that's I mean, at least he learned from a hit piece. I mean, there's tons of people that get they've learned no lessons from that shit.
So I want to read a little bit of stuff. Well, first of all, I want to talk about his most recent book, which is called Return to the River: Reflections on Life Choices During a Pandemic. And the blurb says, on the surface, Dave Pelzer's life seems like an action movie. He's walked the red carpet with celebrities and stood shoulder to shoulder with soldiers in Iraq. He's flown top secret missions for the U.S. Air Force, obtaining the rank of chief, and battled wildfires in California as a volunteer fire captain. And now, on the eve of the 50th anniversary of his rescue from horrific childhood abuse and into the safety of the foster care system, he reflects on the battles he's fighting in his own heart. From a lifetime spent serving and saving others, can he learn how to serve and save himself?
Whoa, damn. Yeah.
There's just like so much in there that I'm like, I have questions. I have follow-up questions.
Yeah. The top secret missions thing, I guarantee, like,
not top secret anymore. You're fucking writing it down in your book, man.
You get to the chapter about the top secret missions, you just turn the page, it's like, actually, you can't talk about that. On to the next chapter. More poop. Let's really
bad stuff I remember.
Yeah. Let's really get into that stabbing, because it was crazy. No, that's people like I've noticed like sociopaths like love to lie about military service. Like, yeah, it's just.
And he was in the Air Force, but like the rest of this stuff, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm inclined to believe that it has been inflated in some way.
My dad's group of friends, they were all Army, but they had this guy George used to hang out with them. And George would be like, he would tell us the kids, he'd be like, I was Nom and I did this and that. He saw this crazy shit. Years later, I was like, well, damn, George was Nom, right? I was like, he was never a Nom. I was like, he sat there and talked about it all the time. He's like, yeah, we thought it was funny. We just let him sign. Like, we thought it was dumb because we knew he wasn't there.
Right. And that's the thing too, is like this guy, he clearly embellishes shit all the time. So like, why wouldn't he also be embellishing these accounts from his childhood, you know? So I want to end with a couple a couple comments from Reddit, because this article I found on the r/longreads Reddit, and so people were talking about it. And one person said, quote, "I saw him speak at an event for social service providers several years ago, and it was wild. He started off making derogatory comments about female celebrities, and then got into some really icky descriptions of how hot one of his social workers had been. The tone was just wild."
Yeah, he's like, yeah, he's also the guy that claimed he fucked his babysitter, like that guy.
Right.
Oh, dude, you like. But then that's crazy. He talks like that with the audience of women, like, you know, like that's
right.
Yeah.
So it's just funny too that he says he has a lifetime spent serving and saving others, when it's like, I feel like this is all a kind of an ego trip for you, man.
Yeah,
yeah. You go up and ramble about hot social workers. Yeah. I don't know who you're saving and serving. So I do want to end on this other comment, because again, I feel like it brings back this whole ambiguity. So there's a quote in the article where it says, "Pelzer is a timid man, always one step from flight. He sees danger in every reaction to what he says and constantly restates himself. This sounds like the behavior of someone who's been abused, as does his, quote, fear of everything being taken away," which is something else he mentioned in the article. "As does his mania and his Robin Williams-like impressions. Abuse victims are often funny. These are all recognizable symptoms of trauma. His family not agreeing with the book and his drive to sell books. These things are not evidence that his story is false. An abusive family would disagree with the book because they were all complicit in it. It is not unusual in abusive families for one child to be singled out and scapegoated exactly like he describes. The other children survive by siding with the abusive parent. That's how they secure their position in the family and prevent their own abuse. One may be rightly suspicious of inspirational self-help huckster types and see elements of that stereotype in Dave Pelzer. It doesn't mean his story is false, even if he is a quote-unquote storyteller." So yeah, I just think that's like a good like thing to keep in mind. They also say it's not disputed that Pelzer was taken from his family and put into foster care. Unlike everything else in the article, that is evidence that he was abused. So yeah, I think we're like somewhere in between on this, and I just find that so interesting.
Yeah,
like,
that
what
is.
a
dude. Also, like if your whole family conspired to abuse one brother and then he became like rich and famous off writing about it, you'd be like,
you'd be
shit.
pissed, right?
Yeah, we really thought it was all fun and games, and we put diapers in his face, and now he's a millionaire.
Now he lives in a bigger house than all of us, and he won't talk to us, and he's calling us the R word in the New York Times.
You're gonna be that guy. He's R-worded, dude. Come on.
If my brother abused me, I might call him the R word in the New York Times too.
Oh man, I wonder if he does an impression of his brother during like his whole life.
He probably does.
Yeah. Damn, yo.
So yeah, that's the wild ride that is Dave Pelzer, author of A Child Called It. Dysfunction for dollars, baby.
Yeah, dude. He looks like a club headliner too, man. Like I'm looking at him, he looks like a guy.
He does.
Yeah.
I think that's a really astute comparison that he is like he's like a road dog. He's a road dog.
Yeah, yeah. He also looks like did you ever watch Oz?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he looks like Beecher from Oz.
Okay, J.K. Simmons. Yeah.
No, that was the Nazi guy. Beecher was the guy, the white collar guy who gets charged with a DUI.
Oh, like the main guy who had the DUI.
Yeah. Who J.K. Simmons brands.
Yes.
Yes, but yeah, he just looks like club headliner type dude, Steve Hofstetter vibes. Damn, G. Well, I'm gonna say worth it. Not really quite sure what he did, but yeah. Like if
getting
it was
abused, not worth it.
No, don't invest in that. But yeah, taking trauma and monetizing. Like there's something that you inherently want to say is noble about monetizing your trauma, or at least like reclaiming it, making it work for you. But also like just it's not guaranteed that every person who does that is going to be like a level-headed, grounded, sane person. Like you're not guaranteed that.
I think whatever happened to him, his career path was probably not a healthy choice.
Yeah.
I'll say that. I think probably, even though he got, maybe the money makes up for it not being a healthy choice, but it does not seem to have served him as a functional person in society.
Yeah. That's very, very well put. Well, damn, Kath, thank you so much for talking about that. That's, again, something I've always been culturally aware of, but had no clue about any of that behind it. That is cool. What a character. I'm kind of obsessed with that guy. I can imagine I'll be Googling him later.
Yeah, I have like affection for him, even though he's
Yeah.
definitely a liar.
Because he
you know,
seems like
that
somebody
type of
who's been
stuff.
in my rotation before.
Yes,
So yeah,
we know him.
yeah.
We know him.
Hell yeah. Well, shit. Thank you very much, Kath. Guys, thank you so much for listening, and I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you liked what you hear, like I said, we're dropping 2 of these every month, wherever you listen to it right now, or download another, go listen to it somewhere else. Try and see what happens. Also, we have 2 more episodes every month on our Patreon, patreon.com/liedsheetandsteel. Gives you access to our entire back catalog. You also get access to our Discord server. That's a fun place to be. We are on all the socials at Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Lie, Cheat, Steal Podcast. You can find me on Instagram at PZTX. Kath, you got anything for us?
I'm Kath Barbadoro on social media. Follow me there. Thanks.
Yep. Guys, thanks again for tuning in. Hope you're processing your trauma in very monetizable ways. Like make money off the bad thing that happened to you. That's what we learned today, guys. Yeah, but be safe, be smart, but above all, don't get caught.
Don't get caught. See you next time.